Hey, welcome to another edition of Cast 11. And today we got some special guests, or a special guest from Touchmark, Prescott, is David Troxel. Thanks for being here. Why I'm excited about this is it's kind of relevant to what I got going in my life, my wife's life, as well as a lot of residents here. And that's why we wanted to have you in is Touchmark at the ranch in Prescott, as many know, is opening up a new facility on its campus. It's a memory care center. And David Troxel, you're an expert in a few areas. Why don't you give our listeners some background in what you're an expert in?
Well, thank you, guys. Great to be here in beautiful Prescott. I live in Sacramento, California, but I've been to your community several times. It's a wonderful city. I've worked in the field of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care for about 30 years now. Started off at the University of Kentucky Alzheimer's Research Center when it was just one of 10 federally funded centers. And back then, you would say you work at the Alzheimer's Center and people would say, Alzheimer's, what's that?
Right.
Nobody says that anymore, of course. So in my career, I've worked in Alzheimer's Association settings, university settings, and adult day centers. And the last 10 or 15 years or so, I've had a consulting practice, and I'm a writer. So write books, do some teaching and training, and I'm very happy to be an educational partner with Touchmark, who's adopted a lot of the work that I've done on what's called the best friends approach to Alzheimer's care. I've also, like you, been a family member. My mom passed away with Alzheimer's in 2008. My mother-in-law has Alzheimer's now. Guy, 1 in 3 American families are touched by Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And there are even studies that suggest, maybe now second to COVID right now, but it's the most expensive illness in the United States because of the longevity. So
what's new when it comes to Alzheimer care and research right now?
Well, I have to say it's a very exciting time, Guy, to be in the field. Our field of knowledge is really, to me, doubling every couple of years. I mean, we are doing such incredibly robust research. We're at record levels of research funding, something like over $2.3 billion, which sounds like a lot of money, but when you consider that Alzheimer's costs hundreds of billions of dollars a year, it's just a drop in the bucket. But I'm very excited to say that, I think we're getting closer to a better medicine, to better diagnosis, to better understanding. But sadly, trying to understand the dynamics of Alzheimer's, what causes it, it's very, very challenging. And there's still disagreement among the scientists about exactly what the causes are. We had a new drug approved last year, rather controversially, called Aduhelm that has not been widely embraced. But other than that, there really haven't been any new medications for almost 20 years. So we have a lot of work to do, but I'm optimistic that we're getting closer.
So I hear the word dementia is commonly used. What's the difference between, we had this come up in our family, Alzheimer's and dementia, or even for example, a family member had Parkinson's, but then was hit with dementia. Can you explain the difference between, say, Alzheimer's
It's probably the number one question people ask me, and
Okay.
I sometimes jump in and don't really define those terms well enough. But dementia is a broad umbrella term that causes, it's dozens of things can cause dementia. You may have read, sadly, about Bruce Willis recently, the actor, having aphasia. That is a form of dementia. Alzheimer's is the number one dementia. Robin Williams, the beloved comedian, when he took his own life, it was revealed afterwards he had been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. So dementia is that broad umbrella term. A great way of thinking about it, Guy, is think about the word soup, okay? There's chicken noodle, there's clam chowder. Every clam chowder is a soup, but not every soup is clam chowder. So you go to a restaurant, you say, what is the soup of the day? If the doctor says mother has dementia, that's not really very precise. You want to say, doctor, what is the soup of the day, or what kind of dementia does someone have? And they all have some different kind of flavors and onset patterns. So it is good. I definitely recommend to your listeners, get a good medical evaluation, get a good workup from a neurologist, and you want to find out what kind of dementia mom has.
So did I hear that Alzheimer's is a type of dementia?
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
60% of the cases. So it's by far the biggest form of dementia. And you can have more than one. There's even a diagnosis called mixed dementia with Alzheimer's and vascular. So one thing when I've done work with my friends at Touchmark that I really appreciate is when they look at memory care, they really individualize their approach, because you have to almost take each person where they are, look at their strengths, look at their diagnosis, and develop that individualized care plan.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about why you're here and working with Touchmark and what Touchmark is introducing to the community?
Sure. Well, I think I've had a relationship with Touchmark for about 10 years, and mutual friends sort of invited me to be part of the organization as a consultant. And I'm just delighted. They have a terrific team, not only here in Prescott, but with their other communities. And they're very much part of what I feel is sort of the philosophy of dementia care,
Right.
which in my case is sort of having a best friends approach, treating the person as a friend, being empathetic, communicating, doing things together, activities. Because without that medication we were talking about, Guy, because there's really no medication for Alzheimer's that's truly effective, I think the treatment for dementia is you and me. It's socialization and engagement.
People.
So Touchmark is very much into this social model of creating that kind of therapeutic healing environment. So I've been an educational partner to them for many years, worked with staff training. I was so impressed. I saw the building here for the first time yesterday, and the natural light, the thoughtful use of space, a really lovely home design. That combined with good staff training and that innovative activity programming, I think that's so essential with dementia care. I like to say boredom is the enemy when it comes to dementia. You want to keep mom and dad as active as possible in the community with music, art, exercise, and that helps lift them up and have them perform at their best.
So you're saying for things like dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever type of dementia it is, that interaction is what I'm hearing, people, environment. So the facility that Touchmark is building and almost ready to open, I believe, has these things to specifically address, they call it the memory care, things like dementia, memory. Do you know the specifics on the size
Sure.
of the facility and stuff like that?
I love the numbers. They're going to have 4 neighborhoods in the new building, and 2 of the neighborhoods are very focused on memory care, and I think there's 16 residents each, which I think is kind of nice. It's not too small, not too big,
Right.
and kind of creates that neighborhood feeling. And the goal, Guy, when you think about good care, is number one, to learn the life story of the people coming in. I can tell you that I like Starbucks coffee in the morning, black and bitter.
Right.
You might like
I'm Duncan.
hot tea with milk.
I'm Duncan.
Uh-oh. That I don't know if this interview can continue.
No, yeah.
We're a Duncan versus Starbucks. That's a culture.
I
I
like the free market, so it's all good.
I do think Duncan has better food, just so you know, than Starbucks.
Yeah,
I will at least concede that small thing. Anyway, we look at people's life story, you see, and if I have dementia someday and I'm living at Touchmark in Prescott, the staff will know to say, "Good morning, David. Look what I found for you, your cup of Starbucks coffee, black and bitter, just the way you like it." Now, hopefully they've gone to Starbucks and got me my real coffee. But you see, I'm going to say, gosh, they know me and I must know them. So I love this sort of life story piece. Maybe we have someone moving in who, you were talking about earlier, maybe they've been a rancher all their lives in Prescott. They've been an outdoors person. You want to make sure they have time outdoors. You want to maybe take them out to, be with horses, equine therapy. You want to, talk to them about their days growing up. When did you first learn to ride a horse? And tell me about that. Maybe they've had a lot of other interests. Maybe he's a painter and you want to make sure if he does watercolors that you set up a canvas for him and encourage him. So you want to individualize that care plan any way you can to help them feel kind of safe, secure, and valued.
So what I'm hearing is somebody's ignorant in this space is your staff or the staff at Touchmark really works on not only knowing the individual, but very specific things in their life that triggers memories. So
yes,
we talk about, in our office, we talk about practice. So when we were applying a new software program in our office, and the new practice of using the program so that everybody uses it most effectively, and it's an exercise, it becomes a habit, but we're exercising something to remember to do something. And what I'm hearing is we're helping them in a practice, in that practice of memory. So it's not just a facility that says, "Hey, how you doing today? Are you okay? Here's your lunch." This is really about, "Hey, John Smith, here's your coffee just the way you like it. I heard that you used to like to go fishing on the canoe down at the lake. We have a lake here. What do you remember about that?" You're really focusing on the memories of that person, as probably assisted by family members when they come on board over at Touchmark.
beautifully said, Guy, and I think we're going to make you a job offer after the interview to come work at our building. You obviously have, I like to call this word in our training, we talk about the knack, K-N-A-C-K. It's kind of an old-fashioned word that we've talked to staff about, and knack means the art of doing difficult things with ease or clever strategies.
We talk about that a lot.
So
too,
having that
office.
knack,
Right.
and you're absolutely right. I think you always want to assume that there's this person beneath the cloak of dementia, and you want to try to lift them up. There are some people who won't be able to remember fishing on the canoe with their fishing rod, but a lot of people, you maybe put up a YouTube video about fly fishing, and it still resonates with them, particularly things that are long-held memories or old rituals, things like that. My mother, Dorothy, was Canadian, and she had a 40-year tradition of drinking Earl Grey tea with milk.
Sure.
And I tell you, every time the staff offered her that when she lived in memory care, it just relaxed her and made her feel very connected.
Well, it makes sense. When you talk about this best friends approach, that you're kind of the guy for that. Touchmark is a certified best friends environment. Does that mean pretty much what you just said, or can you dive into it a little bit more? What does it take
Sure.
to be best friends certified, and then what does that mean on a daily basis for residents?
Sure. Well, I'm very honored that Touchmark has sort of chosen my model of care. Basically, I wrote my first book about 20 years ago with a wonderful lady named Virginia Bell, who's a social worker. The two of us met at the University of Kentucky, and we wrote one of the first books to kind of take a more positive approach to care. Pardon me. We wrote that there's a lot you can do to lift up the person, to keep them busy and engaged and active. And Touchmark, several of their team members years ago read our books, said, hey, we like this concept. And so since then, my publisher has formalized it a bit, and Touchmark's actually sent people to have training, specialized training in the Best Friends philosophy. We have a master trainer. I think we have even 2 master trainers here on campus. And they're meant to be champions. They're meant to be ambassadors and coaching and talking with staff. So, we might at a stand-up in the morning, profile a resident, talk about how can we be a best friend to that resident today? What can lift them up? What do we need to do when they're not feeling well or when they're sad? And again, there's so many cool things we can do. Music. I know many of your people listening might have a family member at home. It turns out that music and song lyrics live in a different part of the brain than words and language. And if you've ever noticed, even with your older family members, they remember those old songs. They remember those old song lyrics. And so I love even using those smart speakers and, saying, hey, Alexa, play Frank Sinatra or whatever, whatever your mom loves, or Dolly Parton or country western music. You can do a lot therapeutically with music. Being outdoors in the sunshine, all of that's very powerful.
Which we have a lot of that here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so with the Touchmark philosophy, embracing this sort of best friends philosophy, it's really about relationships and encouraging our staff to also form relationships and really get to know kind of their best friend as a resident.
So you triggered something in my memory. We have a parent who is up there. He's in the probably top 2% in age, doing fantastic, but getting to a point where he needs a lot more care. And some of the technology that we have, I think we take for granted, whether it's Alexa or Google Home. He loves that Google Home because he can say, hey, Google Play, or if he has a question, he asks it, he gets an answer. It's usually accurate. Are those simple? I guess we call them simple now, but they're highly complicated. They're AI, they're self-learning. Are those tools that are employed on a daily basis at Touchmark that residents have access to? I'm just kind of curious as the industry as well. This is a bit of a rabbit hole, but to me, it's super interesting that it's so easily acquired for somebody. And I don't think we think about it as caretakers. And I want to talk about what are the benefits to the children and the caretakers and the families around these people, how Touchmark benefits them. I want to talk about that.
Sure.
But also, what are some of these, I guess you call them mundane tools that we can employ to help our loved ones out, like a Google Home or whatever? Because I know that it's really effective for our father-in-law.
I think technology is huge when it comes to being a caregiver and all the the things you can do. Certainly, if you have someone at home still, or maybe they're living by themselves, you can have a camera, a Ring camera. There are even systems now that will notify you if mom doesn't take her medications, boxes.
You can run
that
a
are,
microwave on them or a refrigerator. I know he cooks his toast. I say, hey, Google, start the microwave, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but, the technology is getting better to help us care for. And I'm speaking from a family member outside looking in.
No, I think there's a lot going on there. In fact, I read a few years ago, I think Intel had a whole division about elderly, how elders can benefit from technology. I think it just depends. The challenge is when you have dementia, it's a slow, progressive situation. And so someone who maybe has used that, Alexa Home or Google Smart Speaker at a certain point may not be able to. But I think it's absolutely great to put that in there and try to work with them and teach them, maybe give mom a clipboard and actually type out the instructions. Some of that can be helpful, particularly if someone's pretty early in Alzheimer's. I think Touchmark, like a lot of companies, is looking at a lot of technology, iPads and programs. Let's say you have a new resident who comes in who was, lived in San Francisco for 50 years and, was born in San Francisco. And maybe his father was a cable car conductor, right? You can, go on YouTube, you can go on Wikipedia, you can show images of early San Francisco and talk about that. You can order sourdough bread and clam chowder or whatever. And I think learning together is really powerful. The person with dementia, and Touchmark does a lot of this, they'll teach a class on a topic. And even if 20 or 30 minutes later, the resident's forgotten that we've talked about the history of San Francisco, in the moment, they enjoy that experience of learning. And I think as a caregiver, one advice I give to your listeners and viewers is, it's really about creating an interesting day and doing some things with your family member, focusing on a bit of fun and engagement. And you might both enjoy watching a documentary together or watching a nature film, going for a walk, being outdoors, very therapeutic, enjoying music together.
So we'll switch it around a little bit. We talked about Touchmark, the operation. We've talked about the Touchmark residents. I want to talk about the family members. How can a facility like Touchmark, its memory center, and its other offerings help out the families? Because I know that what I'm experiencing right now with my wife, the amount we're having to change our lifestyle. And we're prepared for that, and we're happy to do it. Our parents were there for us. We're excited about having the opportunity. But how does a place like Touchmark benefit families that are the caretakers in helping their lifestyle going forward?
Well, just sort of one general remark. I think for your audience, certainly it's important to learn all you can. And what's so great is the Alzheimer Association's, I think, has a strong organization in the state. There's online webinars. I'm a big fan of their website, alz.org. They have a 24-hour help number. The Mayo Clinic has a wonderful Alzheimer's website. You've got some great resources in Phoenix with Banner and some of the groups there, really doing some tremendous research in Phoenix. In terms of Touchmark, I guess what I'd say is they really have a sense of creating what I call like a caring community. And so if you're a family member there, what's nice is you're part of the engagement. The staff are greeting you, offering you that cup of coffee with 2 sugars and 2 creams, just the way you like it. I think there's a plan to launch a support group with the new building. So there'll be a monthly support group for families. And I think even also, Guy, meeting other people. My mom lived in memory care for 3 years. And even though I work in the field, it was great to meet other family members and talk and share and have a cup of coffee. My father really benefited from that. And actually, after my mother passed away, my dad continued to visit the building for several years and would, say hello and visit people, even visit some of the other residents he liked. So that, I think, could be very helpful for a family member. You're tempted to do everything by yourself. We're all very prideful in the U.S. We want to stay home. But I will encourage people not to wait to use services, make a plan, and recognize that if it's just you and your spouse at home, well, that's great. Maybe you have an in-home worker part-time too. But, you can't create that sort of social atmosphere that is very therapeutic. And that's one reason why assisted living really works surprisingly well. People are afraid of it. But even my own mother, who was kind of like a combination of Martha Stewart, Julia Child, and I don't know what else. She loved her house. She really thrived in memory care. She had friends there. We would go visit the neighbors. And she sort of had a sense of place. And that routine helped too.
I think what I liked about it when I first visited it was there was a place for me to go. If I'm dropping off a parent, I can go have a glass of wine, or I can go eat at the Finn. It's a pretty impressive community. I was going to say facility, but the reality is we have homes, we have bungalows, probably not the right word. We have these amazing apartments.
Great views.
Great views. And then, of course, I can go to the bar, I hate to say it, and have a glass of wine. They used to have amazing potato chips. I think they took it off the menu, but I want the potato chips back.
I can arrange that for you, Guy.
What I heard, which is really interesting to me, is the groups for the caregivers. There's nothing better than shared knowledge, especially if you're a new person coming in, to meet people who have been through the process for quite a while.
Sure.
And to acquire and absorb that knowledge from, I guess you could say, an end user, a family member, a caregiver, is really attractive to me. Whether that's a focus group or just a learning group, and say, hey, I've been through this, here's the process, you're going to love it.
Right.
Don't be afraid of it. That's really attractive to me, because when I think of places not like this, but your regular place that everyone has assumptions about, it's about dropping somebody off and then you're gone and you really don't know what's going on with your folks. And here you're just walking into a different neighborhood with these different centers, and you know the care is just, it's so nice.
When I visited for the first time when I came up yesterday and I drove up the hill, I was like, wow, this is quite a place. Yes, and I think in terms of just the dementia piece, one thing I'm proud of with my relationship with Touchmark is I think the organization is very committed to fighting stigma. You know,
it's a big part of it.
Years ago, people were sort of ashamed to discuss Alzheimer's, and you know, we really view Alzheimer's dementia as part of the life journey for a lot of people.
Right.
And if you have your mother move into memory care at Touchmark, she's still a citizen of the community. So, I mean, unless she's obviously, you know, a complete escape artist or wildly disruptive, which most people aren't, you can take mom to the thing for dinner. You can take mom if there's a musical concert in the main building. Again, this idea of campus is really powerful. And again, I love the idea that, you know, people can go on an outing with mom when you're still up on the hill, still up in the hill with, you know, in this beautiful campus.
So kind of following up or wrapping up, do we know when the Memory Care Center is opening, when the grand opening is?
I believe they're aiming between June and July because of just the, you know, some of the final regulatory process, et cetera. I think when I was there, they're hustling and bustling. It's looking great.
So summertime is what we're looking for?
Summertime, yes.
Awesome. And is that opening to be open to the public? I'm getting nods from our audience. Fantastic.
Yes, I think they'll be open to the public. I may be making a return visit, and people will be able to come and get a copy of my book if they come to the opening, and we'll do a book signing, the whole thing.
When you come back,
heard it here first.
When you come back, we can cover the opening, which I would love to do, and we'll have some shots. Hopefully, our magic man in production will put some images and elevations of the new Memory Care Center on the production side, but maybe have you back and others from Touchmark back. Maybe we even have it on site at the community to talk about the Memory Care Center. We talk about you and your book, and continue to talk about dementia, Alzheimer, current treatments, and most importantly, how can family members better care for their loved ones by partnering with a community like Touchmark. Appreciate David Troxel. Thanks for coming in. We're excited about Touchmark's new development, and we're super excited that Touchmark is here in this community. So thanks for coming in.
My pleasure, Guy.
And that was another edition of Cast 11 featuring Touchmark. That's it. Have a great day, folks.